Beautiful Arizona setting for baseball as the Oakland A's meet the San Francisco Giants. From Scottsdale Stadium, the Oakland Athletics meet the San Francisco Giants on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Hi again, everyone, and welcome to an evening of baseball with Buck Martinez. I'm Dewayne Staats. It's nice to have you with us. The Oakland A's are feeling much better now that they've put together a starting rotation. They have Todd Stottlemyre, who's pitching tonight. Dave Stewart is back, and so is Steve Olivares. But, Buck, if this club is to make any move in the West, a lot of that will depend upon the big bat of Mark McGwire.
Well, Dewayne, Tony La Russa said, you know, nobody could overcome losing Mark McGwire for 200 games the last 2 years. He's been out with injuries. Mark McGwire is in tremendous shape, and on Thursday he pounded out a monstrous home run in Phoenix Stadium, his first hit of the spring. He is healthy, he's swinging a very potent bat, and Tony La Russa is very pleased about the prospects of having a much improved offense this year.
You know, when you think of the San Francisco Giants offense, you think of Barry Bonds, of course, and Matt Williams. But they were 10th in the league in runs scored last year, and those two bats will need some help this year.
Well, they need more than two guys to produce runs. And thinking of that, Dusty Baker went out and convinced the Giants to sign Glenn Allen Hill. Yeah, Hill has never really been an everyday player, but Baker believes that he has the potential to become a third run producer in this lineup. The Giants have a pretty good pitching staff. Now they need a little more run production, and they believe Glenn Allen Hill can be the guy to do that.
A Bay Area battle tonight from Scottsdale. Oakland against San Francisco. We'll return following this. Beautiful Scottsdale Stadium, our site, as the Oakland Athletics and the San Francisco Giants square off in more spring baseball. The Athletics are 5-4 this spring as they prepare for the season opener, and the San Francisco Giants 4-6. Tony La Russa, now 50 years old. He's been at the helm of this Oakland ball club since the middle of the 1986 season, and he is back for more and optimistic about the way things might break out. Here is the Oakland starting lineup tonight. They have Mike Bordick, the shortstop, leading off. Stan Javier will hit second and play center field. Geronimo Baroa is in left. In the cleanup spot at first base, Mark McGwire, and he's hit a couple of long shots this spring. In right field, back from the minor league camp and hitting fifth, is Andy Tomberlin. The veteran catcher Terry Steinbach will hit sixth. Scott Brocious at third base. Mike Gallego at second, and Brent Gates will hit ninth and be the DH. And there's Ricky Henderson, not in the lineup tonight for Tony La Russa.
Well, he's stretching out his legs, and obviously the legs are very important for Ricky Henderson. Tony La Russa said, I'm not going to force any of my regulars at this point. It's been a condensed spring training, and I don't want any setbacks right now. He's had a couple of guys with sore hamstrings. Ruben Sierra right now there to Henderson's left, and Stan Javier, the center fielder. They have both been hampered somewhat by sore hamstrings. No pulls or anything like that, so he's going to sit them down. That's Glenn Allen Hill, who has been acquired by the Giants, is going to play every day in right field. And Dusty Baker, the manager, hopes that he can provide some offense in that number 5 spot. Not looking for real insurance from Glenn Allen Hill, but he wants somebody to produce other than Williams and Bonds.
It'll be great insurance for those two hitters when you put Bonds and Williams in that lineup. The Giants taking the field. They were the best defensive team in the National League a year ago. Oakland, on the other side of that coin, finished last when it came to fielding percentage. And they've made a couple of moves around their infield as well, and we'll discuss those as the evening progresses. Here's a fine young pitcher on this San Francisco staff, William Van Landingham, getting the start tonight.
Well, last time out, 5 innings, he was perfect. He retired all 15 batters that he faced and struck out 7. He's got an electrifying fastball that moves all over the place. He'll throw it in the low 90s, but he's got tremendous movement. He throws a big breaking ball, working on a changeup, but overall he'll put the ball in play and turn it over to his defense. There you see Bonds, Fanetta, and Glenn Allen Hill in the outfield. Mike Benjamin starts at third base today. Matt Williams is going to be the DH. Clayton and Scarsoni at second base. Scarsoni, of course, filling in for Robbie Thompson. J.R. Phillips at first. Kurt Banwaring behind the plate. Barry Bonds, 5-time Gold Glove winner in left field. He really plays left field very aggressively, plays very shallow, and you can see he has the ability to take away potential extra base hits. Fine diving catch off the bat of David Justice right there. He plays shallow. He challenges hitters, and he still feels that even though he plays that shallow, nobody can hit the ball over his head. He is really an offensive weapon with that glove in left field.
When you put him out there, Darren Lewis, who's not in the lineup tonight in center because of the flu, he's a Gold Glover. All of those Gold Gloves for Barry Bonds. There's little question as to why the San Francisco club fares so well defensively.
Yeah, they don't make too many mistakes, and it's really a plus for the pitchers. They know if they put the ball in play, somebody out there is going to catch it.
Well, Mike Bordick will lead it off for the Oakland A's. Bordick, 29 years old, and when he got a chance to play every day about 3 years ago for this Oakland ball club, he has made the most of it. He will not come out of the lineup. He's played in every game this spring, and that's been pretty much his story over the last 3 seasons. First pitch of the game is a bit upstairs, ball 1. This one is underway. .280 on the spring for Bordick. He takes this one down the right side. Hill glides over there, but it's going to be out of reach, out of play.
Glenn Allen Hill has power. He's got a strong arm. He runs well. He can steal bases. But he's never really established himself as an everyday player. Got a chance to play a bit in Cleveland. Same in Chicago with the Cubs. But he's really thrilled to be back basically with his hometown team, the Giants.
Upstairs from Van Landingham. 2 balls and a strike. Van Landingham on the mound, Manwaring doing the catching. This one's out of play. I can't wait for the future. As if this battery, and when you look at the box scores and try to figure out Van Landingham with 13 letters and Manwaring, they have a young catcher who figures to be around in a couple of years. Eric Christofferson, who has 14 letters in his name. So that's going to be a nightmare for the box score. A strike call on that corner, and Van Landingham picks up a strikeout to open this game.
Now Bordick backs his lumber back. Van Landingham just locked him up right there with a good fastball. You notice Manwaring sitting right behind home plate. They don't want Van Landingham to throw too much to the corners. They want him to target the middle of the plate and let the ball work to the corners. He's got that kind of movement.
1 out, and here is Stan Javier. A chopper to the right side. J.R. Phillips looking into that sun. Here's a case with the sun shining through. The first baseman might actually lose a ground ball in the sun, at least at this time of the day.
There's what the first baseman has to contend with, that sun over the top of the stadium here in Scottsdale.
They like his range over at first base. He's done a pretty nice job for them. Here's Baroa. Geronimo Baroa having another good spring. He forced his way onto the Oakland club last year by doing the exact same thing. He had a wonderful spring, forced the A's to keep him. He was really ticketed for AAA baseball last year. Off stride there, nothing in 2. And he wound up hitting .306 for Oakland a year ago. Let's take a look at this.
Boy, if he gets this off-speed breaking ball anywhere near the plate, he is really going to be tough for the hitters. You can see how far out in front Baroa was, way out on that front foot.
Upstairs, a ball and 2 strikes. And when they talk about Van Landingham, as you mentioned, that great fastball with a lot of movement, but they also talk about that breaking ball and perhaps coming out of the San Francisco system, the best of any young pitcher they've had. And he disposes of Baroa. 2 strikeouts in the inning. 1, 2, 3 go the Oakland A's. We'll head into the bottom of the first. No score. Royce Clayton following Finida. Barry Bonds hitting 3rd. Glenn Allen Hill, Phillips, Garcetti, Kirk Manwaring, Mike Benjamin, and Matt Williams, the DH, hitting 9th.
Todd Stottlemyre on the mound for Oakland. He spent his last 7 years in the big leagues with the Toronto Blue Jays. Last time out, his first start for Oakland, 3 innings, 2 hits, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. Fastball, curveball, slider, changeup. Basically all 4 pitches, and everybody has expected Stottlemyre to really establish himself as a consistent big league pitcher, but he has yet to do that. Defensively, behind Stottlemyre, Baroa Javier and Andy Tomberlin in the outfield. Scott Roches has really come on defensively at third base for Tony La Russa. Bordick and Gallego very solid up the middle. Mark McGuire healthy back at first base. And Terry Steinbach. You know, we talk so much about the pitching staff here in Oakland. Steinbach really doesn't get the attention he deserves. He is a tremendous leader behind the plate. He blocks balls very well in the dirt, and that's important when you've got forkball pitchers like Dave Stewart. He also throws very well. He led the American League last year, so he is really a true leader behind the plate. The pitchers have tremendous confidence in him.
Yeah, it was Ivan Rodriguez who won the Gold Glove last year, but you could make a strong case for Steinbach. First pitch from Stottlemyre is a ball up and in. Rickert Venita out of the Netherlands. He takes one too low. 2 balls, no strikes. He's hitting .294 for the spring. Spent most of last year at the AAA level in Phoenix and hit .334. Did appear in a handful of games for the Giants. He's 25 years old and figures to make this club as an extra outfielder. 2 balls and a strike. Giants a year ago finished behind the Dodgers, 3.5 back, and 5 games under 500. Stroked into center. It hangs up for Javier, who makes the catch for the out.
Well, Stan Javier has been hampered somewhat by a little hamstring, as I mentioned earlier, but he's 100% now. Looking forward to opening the season. He's done a good job for Tony La Russa since coming back and taking over in center.
Here's the San Francisco shortstop, Royce Clayton. A good-looking young infielder who's established himself at shortstop. Last year hit .236, and they figure he's a little better than that offensively. Shortens on the bat and takes the pitch for a strike. He's just 25 years old. So he is part of this San Francisco Giant future. Hitting second in Dusty Baker's lineup. One ball and 1 strike. Oakland happy to add Todd Stottlemyre, although, as you mentioned, Buck, he has yet to establish himself as a winning pitcher in the major leagues. A lot will be expected of him here in Oakland. If you look over the last 5 years, in 4 of those 5 years, he's given up more hits than innings pitched, so he has been hittable. 1-1 the count. There's a good pitch. Strike 2 call.
Well, I think a lot of people believe that Stottlemyre may really benefit from a change of scenery. He really liked Toronto and, in fact, had a 3-year offer on the table back in the fall. But he opted for free agency, and then when the market crashed, he really had to kind of basically shop around.
Misses up a little bit with this one.
I tell you, he really is influenced by Dave Stewart, and I'm sure Stewart had a lot to do with Stottlemyre ending up in Oakland. Everybody is very aware that Stu and Tony La Russa have a tremendous relationship, so I'm sure that Dave said, hey, Tony, let's take a shot at Todd. I think he'll really help.
Runs this one down at end. 3 balls and 2 strikes. And when you add to that ingredient Dave Duncan and what he's been able to do through the years, coming over here along with Tony La Russa and actually foregoing an opportunity to manage here and there, and right now not sure if he wants to pursue that. Duncan likes his role as the pitching coach. And Clayton is out on strikes. 2 gone now.
Pretty good pitch right here, down and away. Looked like a changeup. You could see how Clayton was out on that front foot. Look how he's way out in front of the ball. Good motion from Stottlemyre, and the fool Clayton. First strikeout of the night for Todd.
And have a lineup change already in this San Francisco order. Glenn Allen Hill is hitting third. So he'll step in there with 2 outs and the base is empty. Strike 1. Bonds is on deck, so he's in the cleanup spot. So Hill is third and Bonds fourth. A couple of spring home runs for Hill. Fly ball center field. Javier is there to take it. 1, 2, 3 go the Giants. We've completed one from Scottsdale. We have no score. We are scoreless heading into the top of inning 2 from Scottsdale Stadium. William Van Landingham retiring Oakland 1, 2, 3 in the first. And so the cleanup hitter, Mark McGwire, steps in to lead it off for the A's. McGwire hitting .222 this spring. And the first pitch is in there for a strike. And this is kind of the trim version of Mark McGwire, isn't it, Buck?
Boy, he's in great shape. He's really worked hard in the offseason to get himself ready for this year. Says he's lost about 4 inches on his waistline. Wow. He's a big man to begin with. 6'5", about 240, I believe. Pretty imposing figure when he digs into that batter's box.
A 1-ball, 1-strike count. He's been slowed a bit this spring with a wrist problem. He was hit by a pitch. 2 balls and a strike. Of course, the last couple of years it's been the heel that's bothered him. And Landingham falls behind him. 3 balls and a strike. That's 47 games last year for McGwire and 9 home runs, hitting .252. 3 balls, 2 strikes.
Boy, that's a real good sign there for Tony La Russa, because he had a pretty good pitch. It looked like a fastball to the outer half of the plate, but watch how quick his bat is. He is right on that pitch. And when McGwire first came in the league, when he hit 49 home runs, he hit balls to all parts of the field.
And Landingham walks him. So he went to 3-2 and gives up the base on balls to open the second. Van Landingham with the Giants last year, 8-2. And his walk total, that's one part of his game that once he came to the Giants from the minor leagues was a little bit out of the ratio he would like. He gave up a little more than 4 walks every 9 innings. So that's something he'd like to trim a bit. Andy Tomberlin, the right fielder. Ball 1. He's back from the minor league camp and competing for a possible spot on this Oakland club. He has a home run this spring. 2-0 the count.
Dwayne, you talked a little bit about the walk situation for Van Landingham, and I think once he realizes how tough he is to hit, he'll be a little quicker to get the ball in the strike zone. You know, a lot of young pitchers come up and they're intimidated by the big league hitters, and they try to make perfect pitches all the time, and that causes them control problems.
He's behind 3-0 in the count here. Yeah, and you would figure that it wouldn't take him long to realize that his stuff is a little better than average.
Well, the skipper, Dusty Baker, is pretty pleased that he's got a young man like Van Landingham with his fastball and his staff.
And he picks up a strike here. And that stops a streak of 6 straight out of the strike zone.
One thing you don't want to do with a young pitcher like Van Landingham is try to convince him to throw more strikes, and then he will try to guide the ball over the plate. You still want him to throw it aggressively and still utilize that good fastball. Don't take any of that aggressiveness away, that's for sure.
We're in the second inning. And there's the second walk given up, and Landingham issuing back-to-back walks to Mark McGwire and now Tomberlin.
Overall, he's got a very sound delivery. I think it's just the movement of his fastball that'll cause him problems from time to time. You can see a good balance there on that front leg. Just a bit up. Last time out, as we mentioned earlier, 5 perfect innings. Retired all 15 batters that he faced. He's got the kind of stuff that can get himself out of these situations, back-to-back walks, but then he can get a ground ball with that great moving fastball.
Nobody out. He faces Terry Steinbach, the catcher. He takes one to right field. Hill looking up, and that ball is gone. It carried out of here on the first pitch. Steinbach hitting his first home run of the spring and giving Oakland a 3-0 lead. So after back-to-back walks issued by William Van Landingham to McGuire and Tomberlin, Steinbach jumped on the first pitch and hits it out.
Terry Steinbach's a very good high ball hitter, and that's what he gets right there. A high fastball up and away from him, and he drives it over the wall in right field. The veteran hitter goes up, knows the pitcher's struggling with his control, looks for a fastball, gets it, and drives it out of the park.
Here's Scott Brocious. There's a strike around the knee. So Steinbach, who got off to a very slow start out here this spring, something like 1 for 17, picks up his first home run of the spring and is the last couple of days starting to pick up the pace offensively.
This spring has been really tough on catchers because catchers have had to do all of the work since it got such a late start. You don't have all those minor league catchers to come and help you out, catching batting practice, catching pitchers on the side. So most of the veteran catchers have really been slow coming around with the bat.
All you catchers still stick together, don't you?
You bet. I'm still in the union.
Oh, there's a breaking ball. 0-2 to Brocious, who takes it for a called third strike. So that's all right. Loyalty is rewarded.
Well, he finally got to a situation where he could use the curveball again. He drops that hook on the outside corner. That's his third strikeout.
And the first out in the inning.
To give you an idea how difficult Van Landingham was to homer against last year, in his 14 starts, he allowed just 4. He generally keeps the ball down and keeps it in the ballpark.
Here's Mike Gallego taking a pitch low and outside. Gallego, the veteran infielder, back in that Oakland green. Left Oakland, signed with the Yankees, and now just the other day back with the Oakland Athletics. 1 ball, 1 strike, and he is a valuable member of any club because, number 1, of his versatility, and number 2, his excellence of field around second base. A lot more comfortable at second than short, but certainly capable at short, even third base as well. But he'll spend a lot of time at second base now that he's back with the A's.
You know, he's probably a lot better player now too, because he went to the Yankees and became an everyday player. He wasn't really getting the regular time when he was with the A's first time around.
He fouls it out of play to square the count. 2-2. Some of the moves made by this Oakland ball club, and a lot of those acquisitions came late. Stewart and Stottlemyre. Brian Harper will help.
Yeah, he sure will. Somebody to back up Steinbach. Very potent bat. Lifetime .297 hitter. Van Landingham thought he had that curveball in the zone.
A 2-2 breaking ball, and all Gallego could do is watch it. Just a bit out of the strike zone. So the count goes to 3-2. Upstairs. So the third walk. All 3 in this inning. 2 walks, a home run, then the strikeout, and now the base on balls issued to Gallego. Dick Pohl, the pitching coach for the San Francisco Giants. He has seen Van Landingham make 32 pitches so far, and they've been divided right down the middle. 16 strikes and 16 balls. That's not the ratio he's looking for. Brent Gates fouls one out of play. He's in the DH role, hitting 9th in this game. Found himself competing for a job after a couple of fairly severe injuries last year. He had torn ligaments in his right thumb and then had a severe knee injury later in the year. 1 out, 1 on. That's Gallego at first. Phillips holding him aboard. Nice to have you with us as we play from Scottsdale, Oakland, and San Francisco. One ball, 1 strike. Gates wound up hitting .283 a year ago in 64 games. Tapped back to the hill. Van Landingham goes back to Clayton. 1 at second and 2 at first. It goes 1-6-3 on the double play. Barry Bonds will be leading off the bottom of the second at the end of an inning and a half. 3-0 into the bottom of the second inning. A reminder, the 1995 season begins in less than 48 hours. The Marlins have picked up free agents Terry Pendleton, Andre Dawson, have John Burkett and Bobby Witt. The Dodgers claim the last 3 rookies of the year. All of that coming up opening night on ESPN at 7:30, and then the triple-header the following day. Rangers and the Yankees, the Mets and the Rockies, and the Astros and the Padres. All on ESPN.
Really an interesting season ahead when you consider all the player moves, different rosters. A lot of fans are going to have to get a program to check out and see what their favorite team looks like.
Well, Barry Bonds looks just the same.
Dangerous.
He has already hit 5 home runs here this spring, coming off last year when he hit 37. And this one darts down and in around his feet. Ball 1. Bonds with 10 runs batted in. He's hitting .455 for the spring. A strike, and the count is 1-1. He hit a home run a few days ago in Mesa. Down the line and right, they said landed at least 100 feet beyond the outfield fence. 2 balls, 1 strike. He's got another one that measures in the neighborhood of 500 feet. Ball 3, 3-1. See, that elbow is protected, Buck. Although they say that he's getting great extension. I guess he is.
It's not hampering his swing at all, is it?
Nope. Cut there.
Well, the story with that elbow is the fact he got hit twice last year, and he wore a protective pad over that elbow to begin with. He stands right on top of the plate. But last year, he got hit on the elbow. Look at this big swing. Sits back on that back leg and got a good cut at a high fastball. Something off speed there.
The count's still 3-2.
Bonds got hit early in May by the Mets' Eric Hillman. And when he was hit on that elbow, he actually suffered a bone chip. He had that chip taken out in September. As Dewayne mentioned, not showing any effects of that surgery.
He checks for ball 4. First walk given up by Stottlemyre.
We mentioned Bonds getting hit. Here's Hillman hitting him on the 4th of May, right on the elbow. Got around that pad. Then Avery comes inside and busts him on that elbow again. This is Mel Rojas. This has nothing to do with the elbow. Boom. You can see what Bonds' reaction was. He doesn't mind those inside pitches up around the arms because he hangs out over the plate. Mel Rojas has looked a little more intentional.
Let me throw it right back here and see if you can get out of the way of this one. J.R. Phillips. Big power numbers the last 2 years at the AAA level. 27 last year when he hit 300 at Phoenix. Runner's going. The pitch is a ball, and the throw from Steinbach is in time. Steinbach to Bordick. And Bonds is caught stealing for the first time this spring.
Well, we mentioned Steinbach led the American League in throwing out base runners. He threw out over 40% of the runners last year. He's very quick. He doesn't have a tremendous arm. Bonds really didn't have that great a jump. Look how quick Steinbach gets rid of that ball. Good tag by Bordick coming over at shortstop, and Bonds is gunned down.
So the Giants lose their base runner. The count goes to 2-0 on Phillips. Stottlemyre picking up just a piece of the corner, and it's 2-1. Nobody on, 1 out. 3-0. Oakland out in front. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Phillips, like a lot of power hitting first basemen, with the big swing, and that's something that he has attempted to cut down a little bit. He's out on strikes here. The second for Todd Stottlemyre tonight.
Well, Phillips went upstairs and chased a high fastball, but with 2 strikes, he's got to expand his strike zone. Take a look at the high fastball from Stottlemyre. Phillips underneath it, maybe behind it. Stottlemyre's got good velocity upstairs, and he strikes out Phillips.
That's the 11th time Phillips has gone out on strikes in 27 official at-bats this spring. Here's Steve Scarsone. And Stottlemyre gets the jump on him. 1 strike. Scarsone in there at second base in the place of Robbie Thompson, who they say is coming along nicely this spring. Check swing, and that's going to be a base hit into center field. So the first hit of the San Francisco Giants, a check swing single with 2 outs and the bases empty in the bottom of inning 2. Scarsone aboard. And they're going to need Robbie Thompson to come back. I guess he's opened at second base for 9 years in a row for them. And they figure more of the same this year with the way he has looked this spring. That's good news for San Francisco. Kurt Manwaring, their catcher. Manwaring lifts this one into right center. Javier and Tomberlin, and Javier leaps, but it's out of the reach of his glove. 1 run will score. Scarsone to the plate, and Manwaring chugs into third. It's 3-1. Javier tried to time his leap out there, but the ball just out of his reach. And the Giants are on the board.
Well, here's a situation where outfielders aren't really that familiar. Tomberlin comes over and keeps drifting. Javier looked like he was going to have a play on that ball. Tomberlin actually got in his way, and then they get their legs tangled up. Scored a triple as that ball went high off the wall. Look at Javier. He's got a pretty good bead on it right there, but then Tomberlin comes in and almost tackles him. Just a lack of communication by a couple of outfielders. They haven't played a lot of games together.
So it's a catcher who comes up with the triple. That makes you happy. There's Mike Benjamin playing third. Oh, a nice stop right there by Steinbach.
Let me tell you what that does for a pitcher's confidence. He knows Steinbach with a guy at third base is going to knock down anything in the dirt. So you go ahead and really throw it. That's a curveball, and look how he squared up on that ball. He didn't really get a glove on it, but he got his body in front of it. And it stays right there at home. No place for the runner to go. Saved a run.
1 ball, 1 strike.
If a pitcher's got some doubts about a catcher's ability to block that ball in the dirt, he really won't throw his pitches effectively. So everybody knows that you throw a good pitch in the dirt to Steinbach and he'll knock it down.
2 balls, 1 strike. Benjamin, one of a number of infielders that the Giants have, and pretty good ones. He's out of Arizona State. This one a little bit off the plate end, apparently, and the count goes to 3 balls and 1 strike. Benjamin, a .258 hitter last year. Fly ball, center field. And Javier is there to make the catch. So the Giants settle for 1 run. We have completed 2 with the score 3-1 Oakland. The Giants are into player development, and he's headed for the rookie camp later on.
And he got a new contract, got a new uni.
Yeah.
Boy, what a great setting this is for spring training baseball. You see a lot of fans seated up on the hill beyond the fence in left field.
Buck, I tell you, that youngster's dad had the right idea. Did you see him? Had him waving with his left hand. You know, those left-handers hang around forever. We're headed into the third with Buck Martinez, Dewayne Staats from Scottsdale. On ESPN Sunday Night Baseball tonight, the A's and the Giants. It's 3-1. Oakland out in front, and the A's in the top of their order. Mike Bordick up. The first pitch from William Van Landingham. This is low and away. Ball 1. You know, the Giants do have, at the lower minor league level, a number of prospects, and they're very optimistic when you look 2-3 years down the road that they are going to get some outstanding production from their farm system. Good Dusty Baker, a little more talent with which to work.
Well, I think the economic climate of baseball right now is that you're going to have to go out and develop real strong farm systems, because you just can't continue to sign free agents. You have to develop your own talent and then have that talent for at least 5, maybe 6 years before they reach free agency.
3 balls and a strike. They have a young right-hander by the name of Jamie Brewington. They're very high on. He spent last year at Clinton and San Jose, so he may be just 1 or 2 years away. Ball 4. So Van Landingham, who gave up 3 bases on balls in the second inning, opens the third with a base on ball. So until those youngsters come around, this is the projected rotation for San Francisco this year.
Well, they got Portugal and Mulholland, a couple of veterans at the top of the rotation, and William Van Landingham. Trevor Wilson trying to rebound after an injury-plagued season, and then Mark Leiter signed as a free agent. He and Solomon Torres are going to battle out for that 5th spot, but they've got pretty solid arms in that rotation.
Javier takes the pitch too high. Ball 1. Well, Van Landingham, the last inning and then the first hitter in this inning. 4 walks. He gave up the home run. Did get the double play ball out of Gates that got him out of the second inning with just the 3 runs. So he struggled a bit. 1-0 to count on Javier. This one in on him a little bit, and that ball's carrying. I mean, really carrying for where he hit it. And that's going to be off the wall. Bordick's on his way to third, and Tommy Reynolds will wave him around. Javier digging for third, and he's going to wind up with 3. Boy, Javier got some great carry to right center field on that ball.
Well, you see Van Landingham shaking his head as he makes his way back to the mound. Bordick scores. The A's now lead at 4-1. Take a look at this pitch. Once again, it's upstairs, and Van Landingham, even though he throws hard, has to pitch down in the strike zone. This ball kept carrying toward the wall in right center. Bonita couldn't come up with it. Glenn Allen Hill plays the carom. Let's take a look at the effort here. You can see Javier thinks he's hit it out. He was in his home run trot, and then he has to turn it on around the bag at second base, but he breezes in with a triple.
So a man at third with nobody out, and here's Baroa. Third ball missing, sweeping low and outside. So a walk and a triple to start this inning. This one fouled back. The count goes to 1-1. We've had 4 hits in this game. 3 of them have been extra bases. 2 hits for the A's, the home run by Steinbach and the triple by Javier. Manwaring triple in the bottom of the second inning for San Francisco. One of their 2 hits, the other one a single. 2 balls and a strike. 2 pretty good catchers tonight. Manwaring, a Gold Glove winner, not last year, but the year before in '93.
Now, he, like Steinbach, is very good on balls in the dirt. He really smothers them and stays away from those wild pitches.
It's out of play. Phillips gives it a look. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Dewayne mentioned Baroa last spring in a situation where La Russa would put him in the game and he'd keep getting hits, and then La Russa started thinking, well, wait a minute, man. Now, why would I want to send this guy to, why would I want to send him to the minor leagues?
And his approach to hitting is just that. Let's hit at anything. Looks it into center. Pineda makes the catch. The tag by Javier, and he will score. So a sacrifice fly. And the Oakland A's have their 5th run. It's 5-1. Baroa driving in his 10th run of the spring.
We go, Stanley.
See Oakland with the triple by Javier with as many triples as they have home runs this spring. One out, bases empty, 2 more runs home. And Mark McGwire at the plate. Strike on the outside edge. McGwire, 2 spring home runs. 1 ball, 1 strike. Two balls and a strike. Oakland struggled, as you'll recall, at the beginning of the season last year. But the way the American League West stacked up, even though they were 12 games under 500, 51 and 63, they were only a game behind Texas when play stopped in the middle of last August. High towering foul ball. Hill with a long run, but he's going to run out of room. 2-2 the count.
Well, McGwire was on the DL. The club got off to a horrible start. He came back healthy for a while. They made a little surge and closed the gap toward 500. I tell you, he looks pretty focused, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Wanting to rebound. It's been 2 years since McGwire has been the producer that he was when he first came into the league. In '93, he had a tremendous start before he hurt his heel.
And that has given him plenty of motivation at the age of 31 to reestablish himself as one of the dominant power hitters in the game. That's headed out of play. Only 2 teams in the American League scored fewer runs than Oakland last year, and that would be the Milwaukee Brewers and the California Angels. And Oakland finished last in hitting, 260. So that underscores the need to have McGwire's big bat in the middle of the lineup almost every day. Full count. This one's out of play.
Well, having McGwire in there every day really takes the pressure off the hitters around him. He's the guy that has the ability to carry the offense. But don't forget that they've got a very productive Terry Steinbach behind the plate. Ruben Sierra's in right field, a switch hitter with a lot of run potential.
There's the 5th walk given up by Van Landingham. A 3-2 pitch missing, so for the 2nd straight time, McGwire draws the base on balls. Van Landingham, coming into this game, had worked 8 innings this spring and walked only 1. And he has given up 5 bases on balls. And we're only 1 out into the 3rd inning of this game.
Well, the thing to remember about this outing is this is his 3rd start of the spring. Normally, in a normal spring training where you have the 30 or so games, you have a dead period. This may be causing him problems here tonight. Arm a little bit fatigued. You get to a point where your arm kind of needs to regroup and get a second wind. So I don't think Dusty Baker's overly concerned about what's going on right here.
It's going to be interesting, Buck, to see what happens across baseball because of the shortened spring. And when the pitchers, as a class, hit that dead arm period, and they will pretty much close to the same time, what that does to, number one, the offensive output, and what that does to some of the pitching staffs. You're going to have to be deep, particularly in middle relief in the early stages of this year. And that's where the expanded roster will come in handy. Tomberlin takes the first pitch off the plate for a ball.
Look at Bonds in left field, way over toward the left field line. That's what I mean by being overly aggressive in his positioning. And look at this.
Tomberlin hits the ball foul, and Bonds couldn't get over there. That ball started to sink on him as he headed into foul territory, and the ball skips by him.
Let me tell you, he gets all the attention because of his bat, but the players in the National League recognize this guy is a tremendous outfielder. We showed you how he was shaded over toward the line in left field and almost made that play about 20 feet into foul ground. He really overplays his position defensively. He has an idea where the guy might hit the ball, and he really establishes his positioning.
This one is down. 2 balls and a strike. And these days, especially, I guess more than ever, that's where the coaching staff comes in so handy, as they chart where all the opposing hitters have a tendency to hit. He pulls this one to deep right. Hill all the way back to the track, and that ball is gone. Andy Tomlin has hit one out. A 3-run inning in the second, and this home run will give Oakland a 4-run inning in the third. So Oakland taking advantage of the base on balls and then playing long ball against William Van Landingham.
Now Dick Pole and Dusty Baker keeping a watchful eye on their pitcher. That wasn't a bad pitch. That was a fastball down the outer half of the plate. Obviously a very frustrated William Van Landingham watches the second home run sail out of the ballpark.
And 4 of his 5 walks have cost him a run in this outing. Here's Terry Steinbach, who homered to right field in the second inning. And the breaking ball sweeps low. Ball 1. So it's a 7-1 ball game. Oakland with just 3 hits but 7 runs. 5 walks, a triple, and 2 home runs, and a liner into right, falling in front of Hill for a base hit. Now Steinbach is 2 for 2. And Dusty Baker's on his way to the mound.
Well, obviously they've got the pitch count up there, and they don't want him to throw any more. We talked about managers guarding against setbacks, so there's going to be a left-hander coming out of the bullpen.
So a pitching change for the Giants. It's 7-1 Oakland. Back in Scottsdale, where the Oakland A's have jumped to a 7-1 lead. William Van Landingham has departed after 2 1/3 innings with his pitch count up about 56. And there's Dick Pole with a chagrined look upon his face.
Well, that's a pitching coach. He doesn't look real thrilled about the outing, but he went over and patted Van Landingham on the shoulder and said, hey, it'll be better next time. The new pitcher is Enrique Burgos, who was just acquired by the Giants. He pitched at Omaha in the Kansas City Royals chain last year. And here's a guy that's got a very good fastball. It's just been control that's kept him from being in the big leagues.
And his first pitch is fouled by Scott Brocious, strike 1. He's up around 28 years old, and a good arm by this left-hander. We're happy to welcome to our ESPN booth Sandy Alderson, the general manager of the Oakland A's. And boy, this is an opportune time for you to stop by with your club up 7-1.
It's a great half inning for me.
Well, what a great job you've done of putting this lineup together.
Well, we'll see. It's been great to see how the team has come together over the last couple of weeks. We certainly didn't have this expectation going into spring training, but we're very happy the way things broke for us.
Sandy, you did sign some people when the speculation was that for budgetary reasons you would not. What prompted the change?
Well, I think what prompted it primarily was the availability in the market of some players who could play a role for us, who were attracted to us at the right price. And you know, what happened was early a number of clubs went in and signed some high-priced free agents, but later on there was a little left for the rest of us, and we were able to pick up some people that we think can help us.
The 1-2, and Brocious drives this one into deep center, and that's going to go all the way to the wall on one hop. So the Oakland A's continue this barrage of extra base hits. Steinbach will score, and it's another triple. Brocious goes to third with his first spring triple. The A's with 2 triples in the inning. Javier opened it with a 3-base hit after Bordick had walked, and now Brocious drives home Steinbach. That run is charged to Van Landingham. It's 8-1.
Boy, the ball is really carrying. Brocious hit that on the button, but it sailed over the center fielder's head all the way to the wall. You can see he makes a good turn around second and slides into third with a triple and an RBI. These guys hate to leave this ballpark, Sandy.
Well, you know, they've shown a lot of patience the first 3 innings, and it's paid off for them. That first inning we went quickly, but since then we've been a little more patient.
Here's Mike Gallego, and he takes the first pitch for a strike. Sandy, here's one of those signings that is a popular signing to bring him back to Oakland.
Well, I think he was very popular in Oakland before he left for New York, and still very popular with our players, and I think the fans as well. We're very happy to have him back. The combination of Bordick and Gallego at the middle, we think, is really going to help us dramatically.
2 strikes the count. So perhaps as opposed to last year when the team got off to that slow start and struggled early, you really expect that this club will be in the race from the beginning?
Well, it'll depend, of course, on our pitching. We need to be consistent in the starting rotation, and hopefully we will be coming out of the chute. But with the shortened spring training and with some older pitchers like Eckersley out of the pen, but Stewart and Darling, I think this abbreviated spring training might be a little bit of a detriment. So we like to come out quickly and play well early, but we'll just have to see. It's an unknown for everybody.
Brent Gates up there. Where's the sale of the ball club stand?
That's something that will, I think, be resolved over the next couple of weeks. It's not clear that the team will be sold, but it's still very possible, and I think that the Haas family is working toward that end with Steve Schott and Ken Hoffman. So I think it'll be resolved in the next week to 10 days.
Okay. A ball, no strikes, the count to Brent Gates. 8-1, a 5-run third for Oakland.
I think if Walter Haas sees another inning or two like this, he won't want to sell the club.
I tell you, Tony La Russa's pretty optimistic, particularly looking at Mark McGwire and what great shape he's in this spring.
Well, Mark is a real key for us, as I think everybody knows, and his foot has not given him any problems at all, so we're happy about that. And had a little wrist problem early in the season, early in spring training, but I think that came from just taking too many swings too quickly. Mark's anxious to get back in and show what he can do. You know, coming into today, he had 2 hits, both mammoth home runs.
The 2-1 is a strike down around the knees to square the count at 2-2.
When you look at the guys you brought back, Gallego, Stewart, you re-signed Eckersley, how much does their background with the ball club and their character play into the factor of bringing them back?
Well, I think it plays in quite a bit. Number one, it made them willing to come back. Sometimes you just can't get players to come in for whatever reason. So they wanted to come back, and I think their history with us made that possible.
Gates lines to first to end it. They bat around score 5. Sandy, we appreciate your time, and it's always a pleasure to see you.
Thanks a lot.
8-1 as we go into the bottom.
Back in Scottsdale, the A's lead at 8-1. We're going to the bottom of the 3rd inning, and leading off the 3rd inning will be Matt Williams. Matt enjoyed his finest season last year, leading the majors in home runs. The picture on your left is 1989. Watch the swing and the follow-through. Obviously, he's trying to pull that ball. 94, notice how he stays on the ball. Now he's confident that he can hit the ball out anywhere in the ballpark. He's not so pull conscious. He has become a very tough hitter, a very tough out, and he's not as vulnerable to that breaking ball on the outside half of the plate as he was when he first came into the league. 43 home runs and 96 runs driven in 115 games.
Yeah, he was well on the pace to break the record established by Roger Maris.
And that guy right there, Bobby Bonds, had a lot to do with Matt Williams really coming into his own.
First pitch to Matt Williams in the bottom of the 3rd is a ball. He's just 29 years old, so there is a lot of production left in Matt Williams' career. 2 balls, no strikes. He's ahead in the count, facing Todd Stottlemyre. Brian Harper has taken over behind the plate for Terry Steinbach.
He just signed this week. He was a free agent looking for a job, and La Russa is very pleased that they have a veteran like Harper to back up Steinbach.
2 balls and a strike. Not only for what he can do to back up Steinbach behind the plate, but there's a pretty good bat, too.
Yeah, he's a lifetime .297 hitter, and he's not a tremendous defensive catcher. But he's a very, very good guy to have around. He can play a little first, give you an extra bat as a DH.
3 balls and a strike to count. The Giants scored a run in the 2nd inning after Oakland had put up 3 in the top of the 2nd. And the A's exploded for 5 runs in the top of the 3rd. Count is 3-1 to Matt Williams. And that's the 2nd walk issued by Stottlemyre. The base on balls to Matt Williams, a man at first with nobody out. Reminder, Outside the Lines coming up tomorrow night at 7:30, a special edition of Outside the Lines, a look at the life of broadcasting legend Howard Cosell. Tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time. Matt Williams at first with nobody out. Rickard Finida. The pitch is too low. Ball one. Finida out of the Netherlands, playing center field in the place of Darren Lewis, who a little bit under the weather with the flu. Lewis, a Gold Glove center fielder as of last year. Too low. 2-0 now. And Harper's on his way to have a chat with Todd Stottlemyre.
Well, Stottlemyre is probably his toughest critic. He is really hard on himself, and that has been a problem for him throughout his career. I believe that maybe working with Dave Duncan, he might have another approach. His pitching coach, Galen Cisco, in Toronto, they've worked very well together, but you know, you can always have a different view of things, and maybe it'll help the pitcher out.
He misses again here and is behind 3-0.
There's no question about the physical ability. It's there. You can see he's got a great delivery. He's got a good live fastball. Throws all 4 pitches.
And he gives up back-to-back walks here.
One thing everybody knows about Stottlemyre is his competitiveness. This is a 0-2 pitch to Andre Dawson. It comes inside, and then Dawson fires it back to Stottlemyre. Now this is the next at bat, and he comes right back at him again. And then he got thrown out. The bench is emptied. He says, I got to pitch inside. He was ejected and then really lost it. And that has always been a problem for him. Emotions have oftentimes gotten the best of him.
He faces Royce Clayton, the shortstop, and misses here. So back-to-back walks. He went 3-1 to Matt Williams, walked him, and then walked Finida on 4 pitches. Down a ball, no strikes to Clayton. There's a strike. It's 1-1. It was the bases on balls that turned out to be the undoing of the San Francisco starter, William Van Landingham. He walked 5 in just 2 1/3 innings, made 56 pitches tonight, and was charged with all 8 runs. A ball, 2 strikes.
This looks like a slider that he got down and away. Once again, big swing from Clayton. Pulled off that ball a little bit.
2 men on with nobody out. This one down. 2-2. Stottlemyre, 7 wins and 7 losses. Last year, an earned run average of .422 with Toronto. And signing to help solidify the starting rotation for Oakland. Chopped to third. Brocious will get the tag, and that's it.
He was going to go for 2, and that was the right play, but he bobbled the ball. And once he bobbled it, he knew he'd take the safe out. Matt Williams was running right to him at third base. He's got a chance to turn 2 here, but he can't find the handle. You see him double clutch, and then he says, I better take this shirt out right here, and tags out Williams.
So Brocious, who it would appear at this point has the inside track on the third base job for Oakland, takes care of Matt Williams. Here's Glenn Allen Hill. This one sweeps outside. Ball 1.
Well, Hill and Stottlemyre are very familiar with one another, both coming out of the Toronto Blue Jays organization.
And Hill, at 30 years of age, has a great opportunity. Pops it up. Foul. Harper away with the mask and hangs on to it. Hill fouls out.
Well, Brian Harper never really got comfortable chasing that pop foul, but he stayed with it. You can see him looks to Bond.
Written all over his face.
Now watch this big swing by Hill, goes straight up. Now watch Harper. He's got a bead on it, but it keeps drifting around on him, and he keeps shuffling those feet, and really wasn't sure if he had it or not. Finally puts it away. Said, I'm glad that's over with.
You know you're getting close to the dugout steps, but you're never sure how close. Here's Barry Bonds. Bonds walked his first time and was caught stealing. He's hitting with his club trailing 8-1. 2 outs now with those 2 runners on base. This one is low, ball 1.
See, everybody feels that they can pitch Bonds inside. At least they try. I don't think anybody's ever figured out how to pitch him. And that's what led to his being hit several times last year. Breaking ball misses.
A 2-ball, no strike count. Well, the Giants finally got him after drafting him in '82. They had a little difference in the signing bonus. I think he wanted $75,000 and the Giants offered him $70,000, so that $5,000 difference was enough so that he decided to go to Arizona State. And then later down the pike, they gave up millions to sign him. And he's done everything that they had asked him to do in terms of production. The kind of player they thought they were getting, that's the kind of player they got.
He does everything for you. Scores, runs, takes the walks, steals bases. Plays great defensively in the field, as we've talked about. As you mentioned, just 30 years old. There's still quite a few productive years in Barry Bonds.
2-0 the count as Bonds faces Todd Stottlemyre. He took a rip there. 2-1.
You know, in doing preparation for a game last year with Bonds, I said, you know, why do you choke up on the bat? You can see there he's behind that pitch a bit. He says, well, I'll tell you what. My dad used to send me bats, and they were always too big, so I got used to choking up a long time ago. It still feels comfortable.
And ball 3. It's 3-1.
So when Bobby Bonds used to send the bats home for the kids, they were always too big. So Barry had to choke up. It's working.
I guess it is. Ooh, a little close there on ball 4. 4th walk issued.
Well, Stottlemyre still trying to bust him inside. That moved off the plate. That's the 10th walk for Barry Bonds in 32 plate appearances. This is why Bonds gets hit so often. Pitchers try to bust him inside. You can see he barely gets that elbow out of the way.
So the walk loads the bases for the slugging first baseman, J.R. Phillips. Phillips struck out swinging his first time. He's had some problems making contact down here this spring and swings over this one. That ball disappeared on him. Strike 1.
He's always hit well in the minors. Last 2 years at Phoenix, he's hit 54 home runs. He's got to take that same stroke the next step and bring it here to San Francisco.
Stottlemyre misses, and the count is 1-1. Oh, we've had 9 walks in this game and 7 hits, 9 runs. 8 of those runs belong to Oakland. Phillips down in the count. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
I bet you it's pretty tough to see. Look at the shadow there between the mound and home plate. That ball goes from shade to sunlight to shade. Can't be easy to see.
Stottlemyre thought he might have had the corner on this last pitch.
Herbert does a pretty good job of receiving that ball, but Jeff Williamson, the umpire, felt that it was outside.
Bases loaded. 2 outs. And Phillips is out on strikes for the 2nd consecutive time. 3rd strikeout for Stottlemyre. The Giants do not score through 3. 8-1 Oakland. Back in Arizona, Dewayne Staats and Buck Martinez heading into the 4th inning on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. The Athletics leading the Giants 8-1. And Oakland will have the top of the order. Mike Bordick, to open the fourth against Enrique Borges. And the pitch misses, ball one. Bordick has struck out and walked. One of 5 bases on balls drawn by the Oakland A lineup. Ground ball through the hole on the left side, in between the shortstop and the third baseman down there. So Bordick is on for the second straight time. Terry Steinbach is with us. Terry, welcome to you tonight.
Thank you.
You've had a good night after a little slow start at the plate this spring. Things have come together for you the last couple of days, and you must feel very good.
Yeah, they have. You know, obviously we're getting down to game time, so you know, it's very important to hopefully, you know, try to get your stroke down and feel good going into the start of the season.
Stan Javier up there, and he takes the first pitch for a ball. You know, I'm up here with a former catcher and Buck Martinez. He's already extolled the virtues of all the catchers here tonight, and in your case, it certainly holds true. The job you've done behind the plate will mean probably more to this club than the job you do at the plate.
Well, thank you. You know, it's something that I think catchers work real hard on, as Buck will say, is not only do your stuff physically, but, you know, also the part about handling the pitchers, trying to get the most out of them, and hopefully they can have a good night out there for us.
Well, you had a good night. You got the high fastball from Van Landingham. Were you looking for a good fat pitch after he walked a couple batters?
Well, based on the spring that I've just been, you know, trying to make corrections at the plate, and you know, I wanted to stay inside the ball, and obviously on that pitch I did, and you know, I was pretty pleased with that.
Fly ball deep to right, and Hill on the warning track is there to make the catch for the out.
Terry, we've been talking all night how important it is to have a healthy Mark McGwire. Tell us how the players feel about having Mark McGwire in the lineup every day.
Oh, we're very excited about it. You know, Mac is in great shape this spring, and you know, he's going to be a major contribution to our ball club, and just having his presence around makes everybody very excited to start the '95 season.
Here's Baroa up there. He drove in a run with a sacrifice fly to center in the third. Bordick at first. Javier with the fly ball to right. 1 on, 1 out. The left-hander, Enrique Borges. This is upstairs. 1 ball and no strikes. Terry, the pitching staff, a little different look to it for the Oakland A's, but you have some veterans back. I would have to imagine that having Dave Stewart back only makes your job easier.
Definitely. You know, I'm pretty excited about having him back. You know, he adds not only on the field performances, but also I think with some of the younger pitchers we have on our staff, he's gonna add his insight to them and make them better pitchers as well. So to have Stu come back, you know, we're very excited about it.
Looks like a 1989 reunion with all those guys.
This looks like the rotation that you will most likely catch this year. Stottlemyre, who's pitching tonight, could be the kind of addition that really could make a difference for you fellas. He comes to the Oakland A's, Terry, I think, with the reputation of being certainly a good major league pitcher, but perhaps on the verge of taking that next step.
Definitely. You know, we were very excited to get him. He pitched very well against us the times that we played Toronto, and you know, he definitely has that desire and that competitive attitude to fit into our ball club. So having him throw for us is very good. You know, he threw a lot better his first night out, and you know, his second time out here, you know, he's a little bit off, but you know, being the competitor that he is, he's still battling out there and is giving us some innings right now.
A 3-ball, no strike count to Baroa. Swings 3-0 and lifts one high to left. A lot of room for Bonds, who makes the catch.
Terry, one final question. We're going to see Van Poppel here in a minute as he comes in relief. Tell us what he needs to do to establish himself as a big league pitcher.
Well, I think, you know, Todd's case here is, you know, he definitely has the good live fastball. And, you know, it's a situation for Todd to come in and get ahead with that fastball. Once he does that, then it gives him the opportunity to try his curveball or possibly his changeup. You know, and as Buck knows, you know, pitchers have to have a couple different pitches to keep the hitters off balance. So I think it's going to be pretty critical for Todd to, you know, keep working like he's been doing and making sure he can throw strikes with the fastball so that he can get to his other 2 pitches.
Well, Terry, we appreciate you stopping by, and good luck with the season right around the corner.
Thank you very much.
Terry Steinbach, the Oakland catcher, spending a few moments with us. Mark McGwire at the plate. He has walked twice and scored 2 runs and lifts a high drive deep to right. Hill all the way back, and this one is home run number 3 for McGuire on the spring. A 2-run home run, and McGuire makes it a 10-1 ball game. Gordick will score in front of him. McGuire with 3 home runs this spring.
Watch how he goes out and gets this pitch away from him and doesn't try to do anything with it. Doesn't try to pull it, just takes it where it's pitched and drives it over the wall in right field. Enrique Burgos on the mound, obviously frustrated by giving up that long home run. This is his first appearance as a Giant. Mark McGuire gets high fives from his teammates. Home run number 3.
He has 3 hits all spring, and all 3 have been home runs. 10-1 Oakland. Andy Tomerlin up there with a walk and a home run on the evening. The count goes to 1 ball and 1 strike. Tomerlin's home run in the 3rd inning, his 2nd of the spring. 1-2 now. So 8 runs charged to Van Landingham, and now 2 to Borges. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And the A's looking like anything but the team that struggled to score runs last year. As Tomerlin is out on strikes, 2 strikeouts for Burgess, 2 runs score. We'll go into the bottom of the 4th. 10-1 Oakland. A lot of runs in Arizona this spring. They lead 10-1 moving into the bottom of the 4th of this one. With the regular season right around the corner, it opens on ESPN Tuesday night from Miami when the Dodgers and the Marlins square off at 7:30. And the triple-header the following day, Rangers, Yankees, Mets, and Rockies, and the Astros and the Padres wrapping up 3 on ESPN Wednesday. Mark McGuire has joined the home run barrage tonight, hitting his 3rd. And Steve Scarsone opens the San Francisco half of the 4th against Todd Stottlemyre, who throws a first pitch strike. And that's something that Dave Duncan is a stickler on, a first pitch strike. Scarsone singled and scored his first time.
Well, what it does is then it enables the pitcher to go to his other pitches. You don't get locked into a fastball count. By pitching ahead, you take some of the aggressiveness away from hitters. That has always been something that Stottlemyre has tried to do, but he hasn't been able to really master it. He's got the different pitches he can use. He can throw fastball, curveball, or slider over.
There's a strike. I think at one time Duncan had figured out, and of course there's a lot of numbers now in this game, even more than there traditionally has been in baseball, but on that first pitch strike, somewhere around 80% of the time, there's a strikeout. Oh no, he just stayed alive. Harper could not hang on for the foul tip strikeout, so it's a foul ball. Somewhere up around 80% or better. If that pitcher throws a first pitch strike, the hitter takes it for a strike or fouls it off and will get ahead. The key is a quality first pitch strike. Now Scarsone is out on strikes. The 4th strikeout of the night for Todd Stottlemyre.
And I got a hit with the curveball and goes to the slider for the strikeout. Out and away from the right-handed hitting Scarsone. 4 strikeouts for Stottlemyre. 67 pitches. This is just his 2nd outing of the spring. He was late signing with the A's and pitched the first time last Wednesday.
Breaking ball, and Kurt Manwaring lifts it into center field. Stan Javier makes the catch. 1 pitch to Manwaring, and he is the 2nd out of the inning. 2 up, 2 down. So the base is empty and 2 outs. The Giants' 3rd baseman, Mike Benjamin, will face Todd Stottlemyre. There's a strike. We are scheduled to see Todd Van Poppel later on. I thought it was interesting what Terry Steinbach had to say about him. Van Poppel has been so touted. 1 ball and 1 strike, and has had, because of some physical problems and and probably just the pressure of being so highly touted. He's had to live up to that advanced billing, and that's a tough thing for a young player in any sport to do.
And you know what we've done in baseball in general is we've rushed the youngsters. They don't have the experience that pitchers used to have when they've made their debut in the big leagues. Another good slider.
And Benjamin is out on strikes. 2 strikeouts in the inning for Stottlemyre. A 1-2-3 inning for the Oakland right-hander. Through 4, 10-1 Oakland. On ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, the Oakland A's leading the San Francisco Giants. The Giants bring out their 3rd pitcher of the night. Jose Bautista follows William Van Landingham and Enrique Burgos.
Bautista signed with the Giants as a free agent. That's his record last year with the Cubs. 2 years ago for Chicago, he had an outstanding year. 10-3 in 1993 with a very good 2.82 ERA. Last year working exclusively out of the bullpen. Worked in 58 ball games at a 4-5 record. He's going to work out of that bullpen for Dusty Baker, and this is an area of concern for the Giants. Between the fine starting staff and their excellent closer, they've got to find an awful lot of innings.
And Brian Harper will get his first at bat tonight after taking over behind the plate in the bottom of the 3rd. He hits here in the top of the 5th. So 8 runs off Van Landingham and 2 off Burgess. Harper takes the first pitch. Off the plate in for a ball. Well, the A's have scored in double figures in 5 of 11 games now. They have 10 runs tonight. They had 1 game down here when they scored 21. Liner, and that's a base hit for Harper. Harper with a base hit his first time up tonight, the 8th hit of the night.
Well, he doesn't need an awful lot of spring training. A veteran catcher, as I mentioned, a 297 lifetime hitter. We mentioned Bautista working out of the bullpen. Let's take a look at the rest of the Giants bullpen. Rod Beck, of course, a very good closer. Dave Burba, Mark Dewey, left-hander Steve Fry, and Pat Gomez. Kevin Rogers obviously headed for the bullpen. They're not quite sure when he's going to make it. He's coming back from off-season surgery.
And Brocious is hit by a pitch. We haven't had one of those yet tonight to go along with all the bases on balls. So a hit batsman. Brocious goes to first, pushes Harper up to second.
Bautista lets a fastball go, and it catches Brocious on the hip. Take a look at that moving fastball, and it got man-wearing too.
So nobody out with 2 men on. Mike Gallego. Gallego, 34, has walked and struck out. Strike 1. Bautista, 30 years old, out of the Dominican Republic. So there are a lot of clubs looking for pitchers who might give them the innings you referred to earlier, Buck, in that middle part of the game, trying to get the game to a closer, the late man. This is a foul ball, and who's going to get it? Phillips down there, and Hill comes on to save the day for the Giants. Glenn Allen Hill in between Scarsone and Phillips. Phillips out from first, trying to get an angle on it, and Hill came in to make the catch.
Boy, that was just about a big-time crash. Look at J.R. Phillips pull out of the way right at the last moment. Hill was bearing down on him, and that's a big man that runs fast. And he called off the first baseman right there in foul ground to make a catch. Tough sun field here in Scottsdale. He's got the sunglasses up on top of the hat and his arm trying to block the sun.
Now Gates rolls this one foul, strike 1. 1 out with 2 men on. Jose Bautista. Bautista making his 4th spring appearance. Given up over 5 runs in just under 5 innings of spring work here in Arizona. 1 ball, 1 strike. Hit him at 89 on that last pitch, and that's fairly consistent with the kind of stuff that Bautista offers. 2 balls and a strike.
Yeah, he won't overpower you. He's got to make his good pitches, spot the ball. He got a sinking fastball, a little slider. He also has a very good split finger pitch. This is a guy that's bounced around. He started out in the Blue Jays organization. He was traded to Baltimore. Actually started 25 ball games for Baltimore back in '88.
And he is behind Gates. 3 balls and a strike. Top of the order is on deck. We're only in the 5th, and this is the 3rd time through the Oakland order. And that will load the bases. So a base hit, a hit batsman, and now a 1-out walk to Gates. The bases are loaded for the top of the order. And a little frustrating tonight for Dusty Baker and Dick Pole.
Now, the most frustrating aspect of this game is you can't defend walks. You just don't give yourself a chance. And this is the best defensive ball club in the National League, and you don't allow yourself an opportunity to let your defense help you out.
And given Dusty Baker's personality makeup, it's all the more frustrating. As a strike, he, like a lot of managers, tends to be maybe a perfectionist, and at the same time he tries to present a positive attitude and be a motivator. And when you're looking at walks and hit batsmen and then home runs, kind of tough to be positive and motivate because things aren't as perfect as you'd like.
Well, he's also a hitter, and he really doesn't like to see pitchers nibble and have struggles with their control. He knows how tough it is to hit and how pitchers can really be more aggressive.
A ball and 2 strikes. Bordick has scored 2 runs, reaching on a walk and a single. He opened the game by taking a called 3rd strike against William Van Landingham. So he's 1 of 2 officially. The count goes to 2 balls and 2 strikes.
The thing that concerns you about pitchers struggling with their control at this point is the fact that the season starts on Wednesday.
Yep.
On Wednesday, Dusty Baker's going to have to make some decisions as to who he's going to bring in a ball game. So he wants to see some strikes from his bullpen.
That's foul outside of 3rd, holding the count at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Well, more and more, that's why it would seem, at least early, the team with some pitching depth in the middle part between the starters and their late men, they're going to have the advantage.
6 walks,
6 bases on balls. And a hit batsman just for good measure in this inning. Bordick is out on strikes. That pitch just disappeared on him.
That was a split finger pitch. Really an effective pitch for Bautista as he gets Bordick to swing and miss. Watch the arm action, real quick arm action. The ball dives down and into Bordick, and he swings and misses.
2 outs with the bases still loaded for Stan Javier. Javier last year hit over 270 and reached double figures in home runs. He hit 10. He can run a little bit. Has a triple and a run batted in tonight with a run scored. And the pitch is a strike. Third pitcher of the night for Dick Pole and Dusty Baker, Jose Bautista. The tap, rolling foul. 2 strikes now. Javier, the second hitter in the Oakland lineup, up there for the 4th time tonight already. The 0-2 is wide. A ball, 2 strikes.
He's got himself in a count now where he can throw that split finger pitch. Got to get another strikeout.
And a liner into right. That's in there for a base hit. Harper scores. Broch is on his way to the plate. It'll be runners at second and third. Ball loose, but backed up by Benjamin. Gates stopped at third. Javier in at second base as he drives in 2. So it's a 12-1 ball game.
Well, what a good swing Stan Javier put on that pitch. He went down and dug it out and really rakes it into right field. Glenn Allen Hill had some trouble tracking it down and almost got by him. He falls down, scrambles around, finally gets to his feet, but Javier slides into second base with a double.
So 2 more runs score. And here is Geronimo Baroa. That's a liner foul back of third. The double for Javier. So he has a triple and a double tonight.
Let me tell you, the A's came into this game batting .337 as a team.
After finishing dead last and hitting a year ago in the American League.
That's Tony La Russa talking to Dave Duncan. He says, now listen, Dunk, if you get this kind of run support, I expect your pitchers to win a lot of games.
1 ball and 1 strike. Yeah, 12 runs a night just about ought to do it. 12-1. Oakland leading. Fly ball, center field. Benita is there to make the catch, and that will take care of Oakland. But the A's add 2 more in the 5th. Bottom of the 5th coming. 12-1 Oakland.
Back in Scottsdale, bottom of the 5th inning. That's Dick Cole talking to Jose Bautista after his inning of work. And Cole is getting used to Bautista, of course, because this is the first year. He's talking about his follow-through and his body, how his angle was backwards. He says you got to lean forward and drive to the plate. Wasn't real pleased with that inning of work from Bautista.
New pitcher for the Oakland Ball Club. Dave Leeper takes over for Todd Stottlemyre. Leeper, one of the left-handers in camp, trying to make this club as a middleman. A couple of other defensive changes as well for Oakland. Matt Williams steps in leading off, and a bouncer up the middle. Bordick at short is there to make the play, and the toss to McGuire's in plenty of time. So first pitch, and Williams bounces out to Bordick.
What a fine play by Bordick. It wasn't that sharply hit over the mound, but he's got such great hands. He doesn't have real great speed, but he has quick reactions. He gets a good jump on this ball. He's got soft hands, unloads quickly, and throws Matt Williams out at first base.
1 gone. Base is empty. Bottom of the 5th. Top side of the order now. Rickert Finita takes this one in the dirt. Ball 1. Stan Javier has left the game from his center field spot. This one is down again, 2-0. In right field, Jose Herrera, and the right fielder Andy Tomerlin has moved over to play center field in the place of Javier. 2-1 the count on Finita. Tomerlin, who has a home run tonight, now in center field. 1 out, base is empty. Bottom of the 5th. A 3-1 count.
The new right fielder Jose Herrera is pretty interesting because he and Steve Carsey were traded from the Blue Jays when they picked up Ricky Henderson. It was Henderson for Carsey and Herrera, and now Herrera's here, Carsey's here, and Henderson's here. So the Blue Jays rented Ricky Henderson to help them win a World Series, and they have everybody they wanted.
Look out, a foul ball off the end of the bat. Off the facing of the dugout.
Ricky Henderson's back home with the A's. That's Ruben Sierra, just nursing a sore hamstring. He's going to be in right field every day. But the A's also got two real good young players. Steve Carsey, who's coming back from elbow surgery, and Jose Herrera, who many people in the A's organization believe to be a very good everyday player eventually.
There's ball 4, and the A's are optimistic about facing a potential problem of somehow trying to place Carsey in their rotation, find some room for him when he's ready. Their program with him has been to gradually build up his innings, his pitches, and get him to a point where he can give them enough innings to pitch deep into a game and go into that rotation.
It might not be a good situation for a guy coming back from elbow surgery. That's Carsey there to work out of the bullpen.
Royce Clayton fouls 1, strike 1.
You know, Dave Duncan has had so many good pitchers here in Oakland over the years. When you get glowing endorsements from Duncan, you really listen to him. But he says Carsey has a chance not to be a good major league pitcher, but to be an outstanding major league pitcher. Duncan really likes his makeup, believes he has all the pitches needed to be a real superstar.
Yep, they have Pineda caught, but the throw is high and into left. Pineda winds up going to third. He broke a little too soon, and they had him hung out, but he winds up at third. So he was breaking. He'll wind up getting a stolen base and then a move to third on the error.
Well, he breaks on the first move by Leeper, and Leeper goes to McGuire. He tried to rush the throw, throws high to second. Looked like Gallego and Bordick had their signals crossed, and the ball goes into left field.
The pitch to Clayton misses. 1 ball, 1 strike. Man at third now with 1 out. And there to McGuire on the throw. So the walk to Pineda. He gets credit for his first steal of the spring, and then the error, the first error in this game tonight. Ground ball headed to short. Bordick will make that play to first as Pineda crosses the plate with the run. Clayton with a run batted in, and it's 12-2. Base is empty now with 2 outs. Glenn Allen Hill is 0 for 2. He moves away from this one. Hill hit .297 last year in Chicago. In just under 90 games, hit 10 home runs. Never any question about his athletic ability. He is a great physical specimen. Lets this one into right field. Herrera toward right center, waiting, and puts it away to retire Hill. 1 run scores through 5. It's a 12-2 ball game with the Oakland A's leading the San Francisco Giants. On to the 6th inning on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball with Buck Martinez. This is Dewayne Staats. The A's leading the Giants 12-2 tonight. And as we open the 6th inning, Mike Aldrete will pinch hit for Mark McGuire. Good night for McGuire. A couple of walks and a home run. His 3rd home run of the spring. So Aldrete takes the first pitch too high, ball 1. Aldrete's been hot down here lately. He's always had a great stroke. He's ahead in the count. 2 balls, no strikes.
Well, he got a lot of playing time last year, of course, because of the injuries to McGuire. Very good fielding first baseman. He's been a very productive pinch hitter when he's been called upon.
Skies this one back and out of play. 2 balls and a strike. Well, Oakland jumped out in front with a 3-run second. Really started to break the thing open with a 5-run third, and they've scored in every inning tonight except the first. They added 2 runs in the fourth and 2 more in the fifth to build a 12-2 lead. Ball 3 is upstairs. 3-1. And the A's continue to have a pretty good spring. It has certainly been productive from an offensive end. Aldrete tried to check, but that's a strike, and the count is 3-2. And Landingham gave up 8 runs in 2 1/3 innings. Borgios charged with 2. And Bautista with a couple. Sharply hit ground ball. Nice play by Scarsoni on the backhanded stop, and the throw back to Phillips. So Aldrete is out of there to open the 6th. Todd Stottlemyre has been good enough to join us. Todd, 4 innings tonight, and I think overall you'd be happy with the results.
Yeah, I think, you know, I started out a little shaky. I felt like I had good stuff, but I was a little bit erratic, wasn't getting the ball where I wanted to. And the 4th inning was good for me. I got out there and made some good pitches, got ahead, and so it was a good inning for me.
Andy Tomberlin up there, and he takes the first pitch too low, ball 1.
Todd, what more can you expect out of an outing, considering it was just your 2nd time out?
Well, I don't know. I think you go into it, you know, open-mindedly. I think that, first of all, you know, spring training is just for getting your work in and trying to make all your pitches and mix all your pitches in. So, like I said, the 4th inning, I got a chance to throw a couple change-ups, mix in some curveballs. So, overall, I felt like, you know, I threw all right.
How does it feel to be in a different uniform for the first time in your career?
Well, it was a little awkward. I think the first week I had to adjust to the shoes, wearing white shoes. I haven't wore white shoes since Little League, but I felt a little slow, but I'm starting to feel like a cat again. And I think green and gold might be good colors for me.
What about being reunited with Dave Stewart?
Well, Dave was a definite, I guess he's been a great asset for me. He's been a calming influence. He's been great for me the last 2 years. He's helped me get over a lot of hurdles. And I knew when he signed over here that I guess I was hoping that, you know, maybe they'd take a chance on me, and I know he was pushing for it. So it's going to be great to play with Stu another year.
Was there ever any consideration of going back to Toronto?
What was that? I didn't catch that.
Was there ever any thoughts of going back to Toronto?
Well, you know, I signed in '85, so I think when you leave, it's tough. I played in the organization 10 years, but since day one over here, I felt like, you know, I had a pretty warm welcoming. I was a little bit nervous about walking in the locker room the first day because, you know, there's been a lot of great rivalries over the last 7, 8 years, and especially from me, I've caused a lot of controversy maybe against the Oakland A's, so I really wasn't quite sure how it was going to be.
Brian Harper lifts this one into left. It's caught out there to retire the side. Todd, we appreciate the visit with you. 1, 2, 3 go the A's in the 6th. Bottom of the frame coming, 12-2 Oakland. We're in Scottsdale tonight. Bottom of the 6th inning coming, 12-2. Oakland out in front. A couple of changes. Chris Eddy will take over on the mound for the Oakland Ball Club. And Mike Aldrete stays on to play first. The general manager of the San Francisco Giants, Bob Quinn, has been good enough to join us. Bob, a pleasure to see you.
Dwayne, thank you for the invite. Buck, good to see you.
Great to see you, Bob. Ready to go north now?
Yes, and after this early showing, quickly.
Yeah, but you know what they say, as long as you get your work in, nobody gets hurt, you're all right.
That is the secret indeed.
Well, Barry Bonds will lead this off. You, like a lot of other clubs, had to pull some things together in a hurry, and I guess you did with that signing frenzy.
Well, in 4 days, we did some things that we feel are going to be important. Of course, Jose Bautista and Terry Mulholland, to mention a couple, and of course, Trevor Wilson back with us, and Glenn Allen Hill. Those were things that we feel will really help the club.
And here's Barry Bonds, who has walked a couple times. Well, when you look at your offense and you start with the likes of Bonds and Williams in the middle part of that order, and I know that you're hoping to get a lot of production from Glenn Allen Hill to help protect those two.
Exactly. We feel that Glenn Allen on the back of that twosome will certainly give them good pitches to hit.
Bonds with 5 home runs down here this spring. Looks at a strike. It's 1-1. Well, I guess when you can hit, you can hit. And boy, he's hit some, hasn't he?
Wow, he's been absolutely amazing. He is indeed one of the best players in the game today.
He's facing Chris Eddy. Leaper worked 1 inning.
What are your thoughts of Bonds now that you've seen him on an everyday basis as opposed to when you saw him just a couple of times a year?
Absolutely amazing, because he does so many things so well. He sits in on the pitcher-catcher meeting, so he knows how to defense the opposing hitters. He does all the little things that make for a great player.
This one off the plate, so the count is 3 balls and a strike. Bob, is there a move out there that you still have room to make or would like to make with this club?
Well, Dewayne, not really, because we're at 40 and we keep having to designate players off in order to make room like we did for Burgos. So I would say not. I would say we're probably going to go north with the 28 fellows that we'll ultimately pick tomorrow, and we're right there. If John Patterson's okay, then he'll go with the club. If for some reason Patterson's not able to go, we would take Rickard Finita with us.
Bonds thought he had drawn the walk there and had flipped the bat away already. But it's a strike on the inside corner is the call, and the count goes to 3-2. So Bonds called out on strikes after thinking he had drawn his 3rd consecutive walk of the night.
Well, no disagreement here as Bonds nods his head to the umpire and said, "You bet, Mr. Umpire, that was a good one."
Here's J.R. Phillips. Your impressions of Phillips so far, because his bat could be a crucial element for your offense.
Definitely think he's pressing too much here in spring training. He's proven everything he can at AAA, home run wise, RBI wise. I just think he's putting too much pressure on himself. He struck out far too often so far.
And you can see that uppercut swing right there. He's trying to hit a big fly, get a home run, and take all of the attention away from his strikeouts.
We're trying. I know that Bobby Bonds and Dusty have been working with him, trying to get him to go up the middle and just make contact and let the home runs take care of themselves. But that's easier said than done.
Well, you've got a couple of guys on your club. They're going to hit home runs.
Right. So you're absolutely right.
And we have not seen one of the really premier outfielders on your club tonight in Darren Lewis. He's a little under the weather.
Darren's had a touch of the flu, but he can certainly play center field with anybody.
Yeah, when you look at your defense, of course, it wasn't that bad last year. You've got some people who can cover the ground.
We've led the National League 4 straight seasons in club defense, so we know our defense is going to be fine, and our offense we feel will be fine. It's that first line of defense, the pitching, that everybody's concerned with.
Speaking of defense, how's Robbie Thompson rebounded after his surgery last year?
Very well, Buck, particularly the last 2 or 3 games. Now, he's away from the club right now because one of his youngsters was having a first communion, and he went to be with his family in Florida and is going to rejoin us in Atlanta.
3-1 the count. And we go to 3-2 with J.R. Phillips. So Bonds out on strikes, caught looking. Phillips now at 3-2. With Steve Scarsone on deck. And a popper that's going to go out of play.
Bob, what about the signing of Glenn Allen Hill? Why did you think he was the type of guy that really fit your need?
Well, we were certainly looking for a number 5 hitter, Buck, and we felt that Glenn Allen filled that role. And we also felt he might be the kind of player that's really just coming into his own, because from the time he played on a regular basis at Candlestick in right field, he hit very, very well for the Cubs and played most of the rest of the way out. We think he's just about ready to blossom.
Ground ball back to first. Aldrete will make the play unassisted for the second out. 2 up and 2 down. Well, do you venture a guess at your division? It appears to be, a lot of people talk about Colorado, but it appears to be up for grabs.
I would agree with that approach. Yes, we feel it's up for grabs. Certainly, San Diego club has improved itself, and Colorado appears to improve themselves, but we like our club also. We feel we're going to be right in the hunt throughout the season.
Scarsone starts to go and checks ball 1.
Bob, of course, you signed Bill Strawberry last year, and he was quite productive for you for a while, and then he had some problems again. Would you ever consider maybe bringing him back and giving him a second chance here in San Francisco?
Peter McGowan has addressed that issue, our president and CEO, and Dusty and I certainly would concur that if Darryl were to get his life in order, then he would certainly have to consider that.
Base is empty. 2 outs, 1-1 to count. And a roller to the right side. Gallego up with this one, and the toss to first. A 1-2-3 inning here in the 6th. Bob Quinn, we appreciate you stopping by. Always a pleasure to see you.
Dewayne, thank you very much to you and to Buck.
All right, then.
Bob Quinn with us. We are through 6, 12-2 Oakland. We're headed into the 7th with the score 12-2. Oakland out in front. A reminder of the Tour de Pot coverage of the 12th-day event begins Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Pattern after the Tour de France, the course covers 1,130 miles through 4 states on the eastern seaboard. ESPN will have daily coverage through the final day. Steve Fry becomes the 4th pitcher of the evening for the San Francisco Giants, coming off a 1-0 year, covering 44 appearances. He follows Van Landingham, Borjos, and Bautista. As we move into the 7th inning, Oakland with a 10-run lead, and Scott Brocious will lead off against Fry. 2 innings for Bautista, charged with 2 runs on a couple hits. He struck out 1 and walked 1. Brocious has been on twice tonight. Triple home run in the 3rd and was hit by a pitch and scored in the 5th inning. And the first pitch to him is high, ball 1. Ground ball headed to short and kicked out there. No play at first. So the error allows Brocious to reach. And that's how the 7th inning starts. Mark McGuire has joined us from the field. Mark, nice to see you. And when you hit them a long way this spring. Off to a good start.
Thanks. Feels good to be back.
You got a buddy with you there, too, huh?
Yeah, it's Stan. Stan, what do you want to say?
Happy birthday, Mama.
Let's say happy birthday to his mom.
Yeah. Bye.
Here's that home run, by the way, Mark, in the 4th inning. Gallego up there and lines one into right. It's caught by the new right fielder, Mark Carrion, for the out. Mark, the difference for you this spring, just physically, you are much trimmer than you've been. The rationale behind all of that?
Well, I'm just in the best shape of my life. I did a lot of cardiovascular. I'm not much into cardiovascular, and I did it this winter. Lifted a lot of weights and lost a lot of body fat. So I look slimmer, but I'm a lot stronger.
Here's Brent Gates. The pitch is high, ball 1.
Mark, your 3rd home run in this ball game, but the thing that impressed me was the fact that you hit it to right field, and when you first came up, to me, that's what was your strength. You could hit the ball all over the park. Any thoughts about your approach at the plate now?
Well, I have one location I look for, and if it's in that location, I'm gonna put a hack on it. And, if the ball leaves, goes out right field, left field, center field, I'm happy with it. I just want to get a good stroke and, use my power to the best of my ability.
1 on, 1 out, 1-1 to count. Low and outside, 2 balls and a strike. Mark, over the last couple of years with the injuries, it has had to be the most frustrating period for you. Were there any coping
to say the
techniques
least
that you went through to maintain your sanity through that?
There's really nothing. If anybody knows it, please call me. But the best thing was probably the strike. It was a blessing in disguise, only because I didn't have to come to the ballpark and watch these guys play. That was the most terrible time of my life, watching guys play. I love to compete. I love pressure situations, and I couldn't do it.
Tap to short. Clayton starts the potential double play. It goes 6, 4, 3 and out. Well, Mark, good luck as the season is just around the corner, and we appreciate your visit tonight.
All right, thanks, guys.
We head into the bottom of the 7th with the score 12-2 Oakland. It's a 10-run ball game, 12-2, Oakland leading. That's Bob Welch, the veteran right-hander, who'll be working out of the bullpen this year for Tony La Russa and Dave Duncan. As we head into the bottom of the 7th inning, Welch 3 and 6 last year and earned an average of over 7, covering 25 appearances. 79 hits in just under 69 innings. So Welch on to work the bottom of the 7th. He becomes the 4th Oakland pitcher tonight. And the first pitch to Manwaring, high, ball 1. New second baseman Fausto Cruz is in the ball game. So Chris Eddy worked a perfect 6th. 1, 2, 3. There's a base hit into left center for Manwaring, his second hit. New third baseman as well. Craig Paquette takes over, replacing Scott Brocious. So leadoff single for Manwaring, his second hit tonight. That's only the 3rd San Francisco hit. Now a pinch runner at first base, and Jeff Reed will run for Manwaring.
Now that's got to be a first for Jeff Reed. Pinch running.
Mike Benjamin takes one low and outside, ball 1.
There's a good look at the catcher. Jeff Reed, left-handed hitting catcher. Backs up Manwaring.
Ground ball back to Welch. Back to second to Bordick and over to Aldretti, so they turn a double play. On the ground ball hit by Benjamin, it goes 1-6-3. So the bases will be empty with 2 outs for the designated hitter, Matt Williams, facing Bob Welch. Matt, nothing of 1 with a base on balls. And the pitch in for strike 1. Welch second on the active list in victories, only to Dennis Martinez. Welch comes in with 211 wins. Base hit to center. Matt Williams has his first hit and is aboard for the 2nd time tonight.
Well, Williams put a good swing on that pitch. It was away from him. He took it right back over the mound into center field. So he's got a very short, quick stroke. And obviously, with his 43 home runs, a very short, powerful stroke. There you see the batting stance and the approach. You see how he stayed right on that ball. We showed you earlier how he first came up. He was pretty much a dead pull hitter.
Dax Jones up there now. This is his first at bat since taking over in the top half of this inning in center. And a young outfielder the Giants feels has a future in the big leagues. They like his ability.
He had a home run yesterday in the ball game. First pitch of the ball game against Randy Johnson. Fastball.
Two balls and a strike to count. Well, Oakland has been in charge in this game since the early stages. A 3-run second and 5 more in the 3rd. They've gone on to build a 12-2 lead as we play in the bottom of the 7th. This one drops in for a strike and the count goes to 2-2. The Giants have 12 runs and the A's have 12 runs, 9 hits. The Giants 2 runs on 4 hits as Dax Jones pops it up too short. Bordick makes the catch. And that takes care of the Giants in the 7th. Through 7. 12-2 Oakland. Set for 1998 with Tampa Bay receiving a franchise and the Arizona area as well. The Diamondbacks will have a new home, and this is an animated version of what will turn out to be a retractable dome here. A state-of-the-art baseball facility on track as the Diamondbacks are set to open in 1998. That's quite a facility in store for the folks here in the Phoenix area. We go into the 8th. George Williams will pinch hit, and he'll face a new pitcher, Dave Burba. So Burba, the 5th pitcher. 1 inning for Fry.
Good strikeout ratio for Burba, striking out 84 in 74 innings pitched. Live fastball, late movement.
And the first pitch is a strike. A complete new battery for San Francisco as Jeff Reed takes over behind the plate, catching Burba. 1 ball, 1 strike. The count to Williams. (12-2) the score. Oakland leading. 2 balls and a strike. 8th inning of this one. Good stuff right there. Burba always featured that good arm. And the count goes to 2 balls and 2 strikes. And a little looper that's going to get over the infield and fall in front of Mark Carrion for a base hit. So leadoff single. Reminder, the regular season just around the corner. Opening night on ESPN Tuesday, the Dodgers and the Marlins from Florida. And followed by the triple-header set for Wednesday. Rangers and the Yankees, the Mets and the Rockies, followed by the Astros and the Padres from San Diego, all on ESPN. Jose Herrera steps in for the first time, batting in the 2nd spot. This one is fouled out of play. 1 on, nobody out. Leadoff single by Williams. Herrera entered the game in right field and has moved into the 2nd spot in Tony La Russa's batting lineup.
There you saw what he did at Modesto in the California League. Add 21 stolen bases to those numbers, and you can see why the A's are pretty excited about this young man's talent.
Too high. Well, the A's, with this leadoff single by Williams, now have 10 hits tonight, and that marks the 11th time, or the 9th time in the 11 games they've played that they've gone into double figures. They're getting lots of hits, drawing bases on balls, and all of that is translated into a lot of runs this spring. A ball, 2 strikes the count. Herrera the hitter. It was 5 walks that turned out to be the undoing of William Van Landingham. He also gave up a couple of home runs. 96 runs for Oakland. Bouncer to 3rd. Benjamin goes down to 2nd, 1, and in time at first base. So they complete the double play. Herrera got down the line in a hurry, and the double play goes around the horn. 5-4-3.
Herrera with great speed beats the ball on the ground to 3rd base. Good strong relay to 2nd, and you can see it's bang bang at first base. Take a look at George Williams, a little bit late trying to break up 2.
Jason Giambi will now pinch hit for Baroa. Left-handed bat. Base is empty as a result of that double play. And the pitch is too high, ball 1. 12-2. Oakland out in front. And a tap foul up the first base side. So the count is now 1-1. A lot of players getting their work in tonight. Rod Beck is scheduled to pitch tonight for San Francisco, and he's loosening in the bullpen. Burba is the 5th Giant pitcher utilized tonight. 1 ball, 2 strikes the count. Giambi at the plate, pinch hitting. Baroa drove in a run with a sacrifice fly. Otherwise, he was 0 for 3 tonight. Breaking ball misses. Trying to break it over from the backdoor route. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Top half of inning 8. And a swing and a miss. Giambi went after a fastball out of the strike zone. No runs, 1 hit, double play, nobody left. Bottom of inning 8 coming, 12-2 Oakland. John Krug then, John Krug now. Well, he looks to be in great shape, doesn't he? Give him a bat. A lot of hang time there. Good vertical leap. Playing with Sawyer Brown charities and enjoying life. Of course, he would about anywhere he would be, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, he's been traveling with Sawyer Brown, country singer, country group, doing some local charities. And like you say, he looks like he's ready to go. He's really not sure if he wants to come back, though.
Yep.
I wouldn't mind having him in the lineup.
Yeah,
pretty good hitter.
Rick Honeycutt takes over for Oakland. So Bob Welch worked 1 inning, gave up a couple of hits and 2 a double play ball. Honeycutt comes on to face Royce Clayton. Honeycutt, the 40-year-old lefty.
Well, he was down in Texas last year, returns, another one of those former A's that's welcomed back to the mix.
And the first pitch is a ball. Royce Clayton with the run batted in on a ground ball his last time up. Mark Carrion is scheduled to follow Clayton. A 2-ball, no strike count.
The A's have a very interesting mix down in that bullpen. Of course, they've re-signed Dennis Eckersley as their closer. Honeycutt and Welch are going to work out of the bullpen, but they've got some young guys. Mark Baker, John Bristol, real hard throwers. So it should be an interesting mix for Dave Duncan and Tony La Russa to work with.
Well, they even project that if Briscoe could ever find his control with his kind of stuff and that kind of arm, he might be a candidate to close one of these days.
And there's Eckersley tuning it up.
Strike on the corner, and it's 2-2.
Well, the thing about Dave Duncan is he knows exactly what these guys can do and how they can best be utilized. So if Welch gives you an inning here and there, and then you come in and back him up with Honeycutt, and his combination of breaking balls and sinking fastballs, and then you go to one of those young kids with that 90-plus fastball and a great forkball. Pretty good combination. Dave Duncan always working on his charts, always making sure that he's done all of his homework and prepares his pitching staff for their upcoming outings.
Well, if there's a way to take advantage, full advantage of the mix he has, he'll figure out what that advantage is.
He really likes the challenge of matching up his pitching staff to the opposing team's hitters.
This one is fouled out of play. And when you break the game down, that's from a coaching perspective, that's one of the most fulfilling things about the game, and from a spectator perspective as well.
Now, Mark McGuire believes that the pitcher-batter confrontation is one of the best sports situations anyway, where you have a one-on-one battle with the pitcher trying to guess with him and see what he's going to throw.
Ball came in on Clayton, and a pop fly into right that carries to Herrera. 1 out in the 8th inning. A number of defensive changes here for the Oakland A's. Giambi stays in the game at first base. Aldretti, who was at first, moves out to left. Gates, who had been the DH, is now at second base, and Fausto Cruz, who had in the 7th inning replaced Gallego at second, moves over to shortstop now. Rick Honeycutt on the mound. Mark Carrion stepping into the batter's box for the first time tonight. Ground ball, and Cruz gets an opportunity at short and throws out carry-on. 2 up, 2 down. Base is empty. 2 gone, and Tom Lampkin, who's in left field now. Lampkin also on this club as a catcher, and it appears that they're probably going to carry 3 catchers with Manwaring and Reed and Lampkin. The pitch is in for a strike. Lampkin in a position where if he didn't make the club, the Giants would probably lose him. So he's going to stick around. Well, 0-2.
Because of these pitching situation, how there's going to be an awful lot of pitching changes early. Dusty Baker believes there's going to be a lot of double switches, and because of that, he's going to carry extra position players. So with 3 catchers, if he needs to make a switch, he'll have the flexibility of having 3 catchers.
And Honeycutt takes care of him on 3 pitches. 1, 2, 3. So the Giants in the 8th. We're headed into the 9th tonight. 12-2. The Athletics are on top. 12-2 the score with Oakland out in front. Coming up next on Sports Center, a tribute to Howard Cosell, who passed away. We'll take a look at his long and distinguished career. Kings Nuggets highlights and the Sunday conversation with Don Mattingly, Dan Patrick, and Keith Olbermann coming up on Sports Center. Sports Center is next. Here in the 9th, Rod Beck on the mound for San Francisco. Nelson Perez has taken over at shortstop. And the first pitch to Aldrete is a strike on the outer part of the plate. Beck's numbers coming off last year, 28 saves. You can't get much better than he was in that string of converting save opportunities. Boy, that one, the bottom just fell out of that, didn't it?
Well, that's that wicked split finger pitch he throws. He's way out ahead of Mike Aldrete. This is the second time this spring that Rod Beck has gone back-to-back. He threw in yesterday's game, so he's coming right back here for another inning. And quick work of Mike Aldrete. 3 pitches, and Aldrete is out here to start the 9th.
So Beck takes care of the Oakland first baseman.
So watch the wicked movement on this splitter. Down and away from Aldrete. Mike didn't think it was a strike, but the umpire did, and he's the one that counts.
Here's Andy Tomerlin. He has a home run tonight. Beck starts him with a strike on the outside corner. A walk and a home run among his offensive numbers tonight. Checks on a pitch wide. 1 ball and 1 strike. Well, Beck, if nothing else, has the look of a closer. That Fu Manchu. This one hit into deep left center field, and that ball will bounce to the fence of extra bases. Tomerlin will hold after rounding second. So an extra base hit for Andy Tomerlin, who's back here trying to impress. We've got another chance here to give Tony La Russa an extra look, and has done the most of that tonight.
Well, he'll make an impression with this double up the alley. Pretty good pitch down and away from him. He takes it the other way and drives the ball all the way to the wall in left center.
So a 1-out double. Here's Brian Harper. He drops low, ball 1. Harper, a late addition to the Oakland camp, and the A's pleased to make that. Tap left side, and it slips through. Tomerlin will hold at third. He had started to retreat, thinking the ball would be played over there, but it slipped through the left side.
Clay Bellinger, the third baseman, really plays this ball back. He has to give ground on it, swipes at it, and it sneaks through into left field. It was a slowly dropped ball down toward third. He really went back when he may have been better off coming after it. It has not been a very pleasant evening for Dusty Baker.
They scored an error. So the second error of the night charged to San Francisco. There's a ground ball hit by Paquette. He's out, and that will take care of things here in the ninth. 12-2, bottom of the ninth coming. A 12-2 ball game here on Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. Oakland out in front. Reminder, Sports Center is coming up next. A report on the passing of Howard Cosell and a look at his long and distinguished career. Kings and Nuggets highlights and the Sunday conversation with Don Mattingly. So stay with us. Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann along following our contest here.
Dennis Eckersley comes on to pitch the ninth inning for Oakland. 45 games last year. Very un-Eckersley-like numbers. 4.26 ERA. 49 hits in 44 and a third innings. His control just a bit off. Throughout his career as a closer, he had phenomenal control. Pinpoint control. Left-handers really caused him problems.
Of course, Eckersley, one of the holdovers from the '89 World Series. You look at both these clubs. Oakland now with a few returnees, Gallego and Henderson, Honeycutt, Javier McGuire, Steinbach, Stewart, and Welch back. The Giants 3 left over. Kurt Manwaring and Robbie Thompson, who's not with the Giants tonight. Of course, Matt Williams. Eckersley last year did not convert his first 3 save opportunities, and that was big news when it came to Dennis Eckersley. He did finish the year closing 16 of his last 18 opportunities, and he's trying to take that into this year and start things on the positive side. First pitch to Todd Benzinger is in for a strike. Nothing in 2. He's out in front of Benzinger.
Well, he needs to pitch ahead, and you saw the first pitch to Benzinger was a breaking pitch. Eckersley last year had left-handers hit .322 against him, and it was tough for him to make an adjustment, but I'm sure he's going to try to get ahead with other pitches than the fastball. There he's using that fastball the outside part of the plate.
We had him at 89 on that last pitch.
He has never really been a blazing fastball pitcher, particularly as a closer. When he was a starter, he had a great fastball, but he's always relied on good location. That time looked like he turned the fastball over and had a little bit of a sink to it.
So he gets Benzinger, and given his numbers against left-handed hitters last year, this is an encouraging sign.
Both Eckersley and Duncan, I'm sure, went to work and said, okay, what are we going to do now to try to neutralize those left-handed hitters? Benzinger goes back to the bench. Looks like he's got a bandage taking care of some blisters from hitting too much.
Steve Carsoni. And the first pitch to him, he swings through, strike 1. Well, he's been there for the distance tonight in this one, so he'll get a complete game. The only Giant to go the distance tonight. Little tap, third base side. Cat cannot make the play. Couldn't find a handle as he came charging in from third. As Carsoni is aboard. He had scored one of the 2 Giant runs. He scored the first San Francisco run back in the second inning.
Another pretty good pitch. Carsoni's out in front of it and beats it into the ground. Paquette coming hard, knows it's a do-or-die situation. Can't find the handle. I'm sure that'll be scored a base hit.
So Jeff Reed will bat. Reed entered as a pinch runner in the 7th inning. And the first pitch soft, but out of the strike zone, ball 1. Ground ball, second base, and everybody is safe. And Gates moving up the middle and trying to start a potential game-ending double play, but could not find a handle, and everybody is safe.
Well, Eckersley makes another good pitch with what looks to be a sinking fastball. He gets the ground ball he was looking for, but Brent Gates can't find the handle. Kicks it around. Looks like that might have been the double play ground ball that Eckersley was looking for.
Well, he's thrown a couple of them here back to back. That'll be an error. 2 men on with 1 out. A ball, no strikes, the count. Bollinger up there. One ball and 1 strike.
It's a breaking ball into location. Took something off of it, had to hit it way out in front.
Bollinger fouls this one back, and it's going to be out of play. So he's behind 1 and 2 now. Eckersley got the strikeout of Benzinger and a couple ground balls here to Scarsone and Reed, but some defensive lapses behind him. One, 2 the count. Bollinger checks 2 and 2. The A's with 12 runs, 11 hits. They've hit 3 home runs tonight. All of that came early. Popped up foul. Drifting into foul territory, Giambi, and he cannot make the play. Well, Eckersley, when you look at Scarsone and then Reed, now this, he really has gotten 4 outs already in this inning.
Yeah, he's used to having pretty solid defense behind him. Gallego is going to be there at second base, and then McGuire.
Minder Sports Center coming up next. Couple outs away. Bollinger with a 2-2 count. Down the first. Giambi battles it a bit, but will make the sure out at first base. 2 gone. The runners advance to second and third. And here's Matt Williams. Williams gets a partial complete game tonight. We mentioned Scarsone had been in there all night, had gone the distance for the Giants. Matt didn't have to play defense, so we can't give him a true complete game. He was the DH, although he's been in there all night as well. 2 men on, 2 men out. Matt Williams with a walk and a single. He also grounded out. Big swing and a miss to that one. Strike 1.
It's interesting how you have a matchup like this late in the ball game, and both of these guys are getting pumped up. Good fastball right there. He got it right where he wanted it, upstairs on the inner part of the plate. Now let's see if he goes outside of the breaking ball, takes something off that slider.
Kind of a foul ball into the screen. So Eckersley out in front. Well, it hasn't been a good night for the Giants, but they have gotten their work in tonight, and they put together a club they think will be competitive in the National League's Western Division. The work of Bob Quinn and Brian Sabian and Ned Coletti. And got a pretty good crew in the front office. And Oakland, with the runs they're scoring this spring and the job they've done of putting their pitching staff back together. Foul ball on a play, holding the count still at 0-2. The A's are optimistic about their chances in the American League West. And they're trying to put a positive spin on the conclusion of their spring training here before they move into the regular season along with everybody else. That's coming up Tuesday, and of course we'll have coverage of that on ESPN. The Dodgers and the Dodgers and the Marlins from Florida, and then 3 games on Wednesday. 2 men on, 2 men out. 2 strikes the count. Matt Williams facing Dennis Eckersley. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Todd Stottlemyre started, worked 4. Leeper, Eddy, Welch, Honeycutt, now Eckersley. And a swing and a miss. Eckersley strikes out Williams, gets 2 strikeouts in the 9th to end this one. Once again, the final score tonight, Oakland 12 and San Francisco 2. Stay tuned for Sports Center coming up next. For Buck Martinez and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Dewayne Staats. Good night from Scottsdale, Arizona.